Good afternoon, all. Miguel Aleixo from BRIK BC Projects, tokenizing real estate properties here in Australia. Just seeing someone join us live. Our texture, hello. We just wait a few minutes to see if people might want to join us live. The show is recorded. We do put it out on other platforms with Spotify and YouTube, as well as his, obviously. But just give a couple of minutes in terms of before we start getting today's formalities of BRIK Q&A show, where we talk about in terms of what's happening with our tokenized real estate properties. We always try to have a topic around for each week. Today we are coming from, today's actually a Friday down here in Australia. Just a different time might see other people join us live. In terms of the show, it's all about sharing in terms of what we're doing here in tokenized real estate, in terms of our properties. So we'll just talk about that when we actually formally start the show. But probably just, as I said, to give sort of time for people to join us, probably just reflecting on the past week. Formally, we are actually on X as opposed to the old branding of Twitter. Elon has changed the branding to X, which I guess he's probably brought that back to his original company back in the late 90s, which was called X.com. So I guess he retained passion about that brand. They ended up merging as a payment platform, ended up merging with another company to be rebranded as PayPal. I guess he always hanged on to that X.com branding. I guess that's why he's brought this his passionate X brand to Twitter, I guess. So I guess we're probably seeing a few change in terms of look as far as Twitter is concerned. In terms of the app anyway. Rightly or wrongly, we are actually on X now. X space. It does sound a bit weird, but it is what it is. What else has been happening? Actually, we got the World Cup here, the Women's World Cup here in Australia. At the moment, they're in group stages. Actually, we had a game last night here in Brisbane, actually, where we're based. At our beautiful Suncorp Stadium, or as it's called for the World Cup, Brisbane Stadium. We had our women's team, Matildas, playing against Nigeria. Sad to say, from our perspective, our Matildas went down 3-2, which was actually an unexpected result, given how well the girls have been doing, and Nigeria being in sort of an up-and-coming nation and doing very well for themselves. They did actually get us in the end last night. So, puts us in a bit of a pickle. Last group game against Canada. So hello to our Canadian friends out there. Yes, we have got a battle. And that's next Monday, Australian time. So it's a crucial game for Australia to win, to be able to get to the next stage of the knockout stage. So it's pretty of excitement in terms of, again, it's been overwhelming in terms of for the ladies anyway, how many people have turned out in terms of packed stadiums. There is a great momentum in terms of women's football around the world. Some of you who refer to soccer, football for the purists. It is a great momentum in terms of women's football around the world. So good on the girls. Some great football being played, and I must say I've actually enjoyed watching some of the great games that have been played so far at this World Cup. It's spread out. It's actually co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand. So hello to our New Zealand friends who have actually hosted some fantastic games in the past week. So fantastic. Another iconic sport. We do enjoy our sports at BRIK BC, especially when the Aussies are involved. So the Great Ashes clash with England, it's still going at the moment. It's on the last game, the 5th test. Yes, we did win due to rain in the 4th test at old Old Trafford last week, we did win it because it got rained out. So there's a drawn series, which is best of 5. So given the rain, basically caused a draw in the last game. So that we end up retaining the Ashes. Not the best of ways. So shout out to our English friends around the world. Someone in England like Paul, LSJ, Indy. Again, not the perfect way to retain the Ashes, but it is what it is. So, but again, I think be hopefully a great last game that started last night here. Well, it started last night here in Australia, but obviously it's being played in England. May both teams play well, and may the best team win. Always very iconic, the Ashes between Australia and England. So again, it's been some controversy and so forth. So enough about sport. But yeah, look, probably start the formalities as again. I'm Miguel, Aleixo. I'm the co-founder and managing director of BRIK BC Projects. We tokenise real estate properties of the residential kind here in Brisbane and Gold Coast. We've got 2 current properties, the BRIK Koala property, which is in Brisbane, and the BRIK Dolphin property, which is on the Gold Coast, which will be a newly built property. But yeah, so anybody can buy from anywhere in the world, so everybody's for as little as $80 a token, property token. Anybody can access those properties, just go onto the website. In BRIKBCprojects.com, go on there, you'll see the links on the various pinned tweets here. On the second tweet, you'll see the property there, and you'll see links to our website. From there, you can go to get yourself an account, subscribe to an account, it's free, and basically enter all your details and so forth, and then basically from there you can start buying BRIK BC property tokens of the various property token series, which at the moment, as I said, there's the 2 properties, the Koala and the Dolphin properties. But yeah, so that's a bit in terms of what we're doing. Again, it's something that we're passionate about, to providing access to the exposure of the benefits of real estate that through the tokenized way in terms of being on the blockchain. So again, it's our way to provide access to anybody from anywhere in the world that everybody's got the ability to get exposure to real estate property via our tokenized platform of property tokens. Today's topic is in terms of when we talk about property. You always talk about is in terms of the cash flow for property, the capital growth from property. Which one is the right model? Again, is a property the right property that's cash gives you good cash flow, or is it the right property that gives you capital growth? Is it cash flow driven, or is it capital growth driven property? And I guess throughout the world, there's different circumstances, different models, different. Again, we talk about residential property. Every country's got its own uniqueness around in terms of what is the best type of property, the cash flows, the capital growth. I guess from colleagues and from friends and contacts around the world, if you ever look at the US market, for example, the US market from a residential perspective, they do tend to be more cash flow focus in terms of what returns come out of a property. If we talk about the Australian market, typically we're more about focus around the capital growth because in terms of just how everything's structured here, the cash flows are very minimal. It's always about the capital growth of each property. So again, if we ever look at Brisbane and Gold Coast, the areas we focus on, it's very much that. In terms of if you look at historically in terms of our properties here in Brisbane and Gold Coast, if you're getting 2 to 3% gross return on a property, you're very lucky. So these are the sort of returns you're talking about. So again, it's all about the capital growth for us here with residential property anyway. It's always focused around the capital growth. Again, with Brisbane and Gold Coast, historically, properties double up every 10 years, so the 2x every 10 years. And again, that's if you go back through the history and you look at it properly, that's been happening. It's probably happening a bit more in terms of the capital growth, given obviously the big jumps in property values over the last sort of 2 years, sort of middle post COVID. Given some of the variables that have been playing out here in the Brisbane and Gold Coast, we've had a lot of migrations from other states coming here. Given the opportunities, obviously we have got the 2032 Olympics, but that fact hasn't really kicked in yet. People are coming up here because we do have the better weather in terms of throughout Australia. It is a more of a relaxed environment that in here in what we call southeast Queensland, which our state of Queensland, which is in the southeast encompasses the Brisbane and Gold Coast cities. But yeah, it's okay. We've had a lot of migration up here with COVID. We did handle the COVID situation a lot better than other states. So in terms of other states like Victoria, which had the record number of lockdown in terms of days, so people did flee to here to Brisbane and Gold Coast. So again, we've had a lot of migration from other states and also from Sydney and sort of just the New South Wales state in general. So we've had that, which obviously causes housing demand, which obviously causes increase in property values. So basically, we've also had in terms of migrations from overseas, whether it be expats coming back post COVID, or whether it be just migration in general, people looking for a different country, and obviously see Australia, especially here in Brisbane Gold Coast, as a great cities to live and to establish their families and be able to bring up their families here in Brisbane and Gold Coast. So again, we've had a lot of migration, and obviously with the Olympics, we probably see the Olympics in 2032. We probably see it more like around 2029 in terms of the turbocharging of property values, given that historically, if you look at other cities like Sydney, when it held the Olympics in 2000, there was a very similar, where basically 3 years out, it just went into turbocharged and the values went through the roof. So again, this is what our expectations are in sort of 10 years' time. But if right here, right now, we experience a substantial growth in terms of property values, they'll continue. And basically leading into Olympics in a few years' time, which will just go into that hyper growth. So I mean, I've sort of conservatively made a statement that I see 10 years' time that we can sort of see these property values. If we sort of look at the from last year when we were making some forecasting, we saw property values sort of going to 4x in 10 years' time, given the variables I just mentioned and so forth. So again, it's in what is the right model in terms of when you invest in residential real estate property. Is it the cash flow, or is it the capital growth? Again, there's not a right or wrong. It's everybody's got different perspectives on it. Different countries have different elements of that of those properties. But for us, basically, as I said, we here in Australia, it's always about the capital growth in terms of having property held long term and be able to see those values grow over time. Again, we've basically mirrored that in terms of our property tokens. So for example, the BRIK Dolphin token, the Gold Coast property, which is $80 a BRIK Dolphin token. So again, we've taken the same approach that these tokens, again, the properties are held indefinitely. So we see in terms of that, we don't pay out any cash flow out. There's no dividends. There's no rent that gets paid out. So once you hold the BRIK Dolphin token, you hold it, and you see obviously the the value of the property will mirror in terms of the value growth of the BRIK Dolphin token. In terms of what we do in terms of our model, we basically do so the BRIK Dolphin property token series, which is owned by a special purpose company that owns the property. That basically the net rent generated is actually invested into a crypto portfolio. So each month that net rent that we've calculated gets it. Basically, we purchase crypto, whether it be the major crypto, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be Ethereum, whether it be Ravencoin, Solana, Cardano. So we just try to stick to the main, the blue chip cryptos that basically then is owned by the BRIK Dolphin property token series within that special purpose vehicle. So basically that enables that the primary asset being the property, and also having this secondary asset within that series being a crypto portfolio that's accumulating each month from the net rent generator. So again, it's we like to think that's quite unique because again, this is all about long-term growth. But in saying that, people that go on the journey and actually hold the BRIK Dolphin property token, at any time they can also cash in some of their BRIK Dolphin property tokens in a secondary market. So if they hold 100, they can basically say if they want to sell half, basically at any time. So they're 2 years into the journey. There's been a growth in the BRIK Dolphin because obviously the property is going to keep growing in value, and obviously accumulating crypto portfolio in there. So basically, that BRIK Dolphin in 2 years' time obviously be worth more than when it started. And so people that they might have, say someone might have 100, they want to sell 50. They basically put up to sell those 50 BRIK Dolphins in a secondary market, and someone will come in and actually buy those from them in the secondary market. So that's how people might, if they want to sort of cash in some of their property tokens, BRIK Dolphin property tokens, they got the ability to do so. So just again, this is our model, and it gives people the flexibility to be able to accumulate, but at the same time be able to cash in some at any time they want. So again, our model is very much about the capital growth in terms of how these properties are held, and obviously mirroring in terms of the actual property tokens themselves, but at the same time, but people got the ability to cash in any time they want. So that's sort of a bit of an overview in terms of our model, around the topic in terms of, it's very much around the capital growth in terms of our residential properties that we tokenise. Again, it's so just see if there's any questions from the audience that they might want to ask. Sort of reflecting on the past weeks, see if there's any questions that came through that might want to share. But again, I always like to sort of, anybody that comes on live here, that make that a priority because it is BRIK Q&A. But yeah, so just having a look through in terms of any questions that might have funneled through. No, actually, there's been no questions during the week. Okay, well, if there's no questions, so we'll start the wrap up. And but again, it's so we're just having this trying on different dates. So just sort of we rotate around during the week, so every few weeks. So it is Friday. So here down in Australia, happy Friday, everybody. And if it's still Thursdays in other part of the world, happy Thursdays. So well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed that. If there's any questions, please DM me here on Twitter and other social media platform. You can go on our profile here. You can see all the different platforms that we're on. Twitter is where we have the most activities on. So, but again, go into our profile, click on our BRIK tree, where it's got different links to our website and the various other social media platforms. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day. Have a great evening, and also have a fantastic weekend. Take care. See you next week. Bye for now.